Today we're getting into a topic that touches every single one of us, which is disagreements. Whether it's a heated debate on social media, a tense work meeting, or an awkward dinner table moment with family or friends, disagreements are everywhere you look. And let's be honest, they are also not going anywhere anytime soon. And here's the twist. The way we have been taught to handle them, it's all freaking wrong. You are conditioned to argue, to fight tooth and nail to prove your point, dismantle the point of the partner, and come out on top of it. It's like verbal gladiator combat where there's one winner and obviously one loser. But what if that mindset is keeping you stuck, disconnected, and drained? Today I'm sharing a total different approach, one that doesn't just ease the tension, but actually strengthens your relationship and boosts your influence. So without further ado, let's get into it. Picture this. You're in a conversation and someone drops a bombshell opinion that makes your jaw clench. It triggers every kind of emotion that really makes you uncomfortable. Maybe it's a statement such as people who work remotely are just lazy. Or maybe it's like abortion is good or bad kind of opinion. Or maybe someone is saying social media is destroying humanity. Whatever it is, your first instinct might be to fire back with, "That's not true. You are wrong because." But let's pause just here. What if, instead of jumping to defend your perspective, your opinion, your belief, or your story and perception, with a simple question? What I referred to is something like that. If someone drops something that you can't fathom what they were just saying, and you just want to go right into it and really defend or really make them wrong, I have two questions that I'm asking that takes the tension out of that conversation or of that pending argument. One is, wow, that's an interesting take. What makes you feel that way? Another thing that I sometimes say is, I'm curious, how did you come to that conclusion? And that kind of question shifts the whole dynamic. So this is then no longer a clash. It's a starting conversation. And why does that work so well? Well, first of all, were you successful getting into an argument with someone who holds a different opinion? If yes, please reach out to me and let me know your magic. For me, it never happened. And I usually catch myself, and it's sometimes happening when I am getting in an unconscious pattern, to get really upset. I get angry. I get irritated. I put my hands in front of my chest and pout. It never worked for me. But what worked for me is asking one of those two questions. So really about hey, that's an interesting take. What makes you feel that way? Or what makes you think that way? Or, hey, I'm curious. How did you come and derive to that conclusion? These are innocent questions. And everybody likes to answer such a question because you make it about the other person. You ask that other person to elaborate. Hey, how did you come to that point? What was the starting point of you thinking that way? Or what moves you to that kind of point of view? So why this works is the following. First of all, it diffuses the fight. Arguments escalate when both sides dig in their heels. But when you ask a question, you're not attacking. You are not the fucking attacker. You are actually inviting to a dialogue. And that is so powerful. It makes you absolutely so magnetic if instead of getting defensive or attacking, you go into curiosity, inviting the other person to a dialogue. even if the topic is like hot potatoes where you just can't hold it because it's so irritating. And that simple shift makes the other person feel really heard and not cornered. And there is nothing more magical if you feel heard, if you feel seen, if you feel kind of like, hey, that other person wants to know more about me. And that is absolutely magical. Try that out. It is, I mean, you know how it is if someone truly listens to you, if someone really wants to know more about you without you feeling that they can't wait to have their turn, their say, right? Another thing that it does, it promotes self-reflection. That's the juicy part here. A lot of opinions are like old furniture, like the furniture that you feel like it's already looking old, it's maybe stinky, it's just so run down, and people still have those furnitures around them. And the same with opinions. People have them, but they have never really taken the time to examine them. They never took the time to reassess whether that opinion or belief is still something they truly believe in. Maybe they were mentally lazy to feel like, okay, maybe I have now different facts, and maybe now with the different facts I have, I can form a different opinion. So you do them an immense favor by asking a question. So, and when you ask a very thoughtful question, you gently nudge them to take a closer look. They might even surprise themselves with what they discover and might come to a completely different conclusion. I had that recently with a friend where we had a really great discussion and debate, but at some point, we had a complete different opinion, and the specific thing that she was believing and having opinion around triggered the F out of me. I was like almost losing it. And then I felt like, okay, I want to form a dialogue. I want to understand her better and ask her a thoughtful question. And then, suddenly she changed her point of view because not completely, but she was not as hardcore about it anymore. And I'm pretty sure she might change her opinion overall over the time. And another great thing why this question works, or questions do work, is it gives you the upper hand in understanding. Asking questions isn't just for a show, it is very strategic. It helps you understand where they are coming from, which means you can respond in a way that actually lands. You're not just talking past each other, which often happens. 99% of the time we talk past each other. I have this so often with my husband. We have maybe not even like this of a different opinion, but we don't hear each other because we are just so in our heads. And when you ask a question to ask, hey, what's the reason that you are thinking this way? Where did you derive this conclusion from? This really builds a real authentic connection. So, for example, let's make an example here better to undermine basically what I'm trying to tell you here. So, let's assume you're chatting with a friend who says, okay, social media is ruining society. If we would have this conversation and you would say that to me, I have a complete different opinion about it. But if you say social media is ruining a society, so instead of snapping back like me saying, hey, that's so ridiculous, or launching into a TED talk about the benefits of digital connection, I would say, that's an interesting point. What makes you feel that way? And maybe you open up or they open up about how it's affected either your mental health, or obviously when you talk to somebody else, their mental health, or the pressure you felt to keep up maybe your appearances, your posting, your content. And suddenly you're not just reacting, you're actually relating. So that is really important. And from there, I can respond with empathy. I can share my own perspective, because obviously social media is a balancing act. It can be toxic, but it can also be super enriching, depending obviously on the nuances and how I'm going to use social media. But when I respond with empathy, and share my own perspective, I can say to you, hey, I hear you on that. I can hear you that you might have already some that it affected your mental health, or you felt that the comparison really brought you down on your knees, or you thought you are a bad mother because you were watching mothers thriving with the kids and you might be struggling. So I hear you on that. My experience has been different because, and then I can go into how I have a different experience than you, which doesn't make your experience wrong at all. It just means, hey, I had a different experience. That's where I'm coming from. And we could make both each other right because we base that on our own wisdom and experience. And then it doesn't turn into a debate. It's a real authentic exchange. And that's when the real magic happens between human beings. And the real win is always connection over conflict. I don't mean that we should avoid conflict, so that's not what I'm going for. Because if there is a kind of like elephant in the room, conflict delayed is conflict accumulated. It makes it worse over time. But what I'm saying here is that I don't need to start an unnecessary conflict over something that is not worth like dying on. It's not the hill I want to die on. It's not the battle that I want to fight. So, and again, disagreements aren't inherently bad. They are absolutely opportunities to learn, to understand, and to show up authentically. But when you lead with curiosity instead of combativeness, you are not just avoiding a fight, you are fostering like this true, deep, and respectful connection. And that is when we humans thrive. That's when we humans really feel close to each other. And when I feel close to you, I feel also obviously first close to myself because I'm leading the way. I'm leading the way with not competitiveness, sorry, but with curiosity, with compassion, and with understanding. And the same obviously happens to you too. You can ask yourself better questions instead of just fighting that part in you that might have a different opinion and might have a conflict with your vision. So here's a challenge for you. The next time you feel that spark of disagreement, I really challenge you to pause. Resist the urge to argue. And hey, that is hard. That is fucking hard. It took me forever, almost, to get to that point. But again, there is a window between the trigger and the response, right? Viktor Frankl wrote about that extensively, that there is this small window between the trigger and the reaction where you can choose a response. And that window needs to be practiced. This is not coming automatically. It doesn't obviously is there by default. This is something that you have to expand. You have to really find that spot, grab onto it. And even if it's just 1 second, it's better than not at all, and then expand it from there. So lean in with a thoughtful question, like fill that window, not just with a silence and a pause, but also with this powerful question of like, I'm curious, how did you derive to that conclusion, or what makes you think or feel this way? And then see where the conversation takes you. And you might just find that people you thought were clashing, that you were clashing with, that you have more in common with you actually than you expected. And I really deeply believe that in the end of the day, even if we have the most stark differences or like different kind of opinions like day and night, that in the end of the day we will find common ground. And I truly believe if we would be better in, and when I say we should be better, I also always talk to myself like, I want to be better in finding that window and ask a good question so that I can find more common ground, and from there on make that world a little less toxic and feeling more connected. And we thrive. I mean, you know how it is. If you find common ground with someone, it's beautiful. And I'll invite you with this challenge to practice this. All right, my love, that's it for today. Let me know how that goes. Give me some feedback how that felt for you. And remember, you don't have to win any argument to win in life. But the real victory is in choosing connection over conflict. And thanks for tuning in. I really appreciate you listening, you joining my weekly episodes. So I wish you a wonderful rest of your day, and let me know how it goes when you choose connection over conflict. Okay? Until next time, my love. Bye.